resume the meeting, thanks. On to item 12 on page 73, the electric bike initiative. And we have a councillor so enthusiastic about this that I got an email overnight or a text or something requesting that he be allowed to move the motion. And I agreed. Councillor Bunting is therefore the mover of the recommendation number 3, and I'll second it to put it on the table. But we've got Jason. Where's Jason? Oh, okay, we can do it even quicker. Well, I don't know where he was because he didn't hear when I left. Well, is he coming? Because okay. No, we're not doing item 10. No, the submission, sorry, that's... Yeah, we'll do item 10. Sorry.
Jason is in the
Page
house.
37.
Jason's just arrived.
No.
Dave, yeah.
Is he here? Jason, come up to the front while we're on electric bikes. And you got caught. Okay. Any quick introduction needed in advance of questions on this?
I suppose the only thing I wanted to raise is that the reason we're bringing it to GNI is that we wanted to provide elected members some visibility on this particular staff initiative, and that's because we thought it may have some public interest. And as you would have seen, or you may have seen over the weekend, there was an article on it. So we think it's appropriate that we give elected members some involvement at this stage. Sorry, just trying to get my breath back from running, but the initial part of the staff initiative was, does it align with Access Hamilton? Was there an interest within staff for it? We've identified some procurement issues that we need to work through. So before we start advancing things further, we just want to make sure that you've got some visibility, have any feedback that we may need to take on board before we progress it any further. So happy to take any questions.
Councillor, just want to say that the management, or the CEO certainly, has a delegated authority to handle this. This is a staffing issue, but they have effectively asked us for a concept approval, if you like. The details of how they do it, provided they're not seeking new money, are theirs to the managements to handle, particularly, and the CEO can decide within management how it is they should handle. But they want our opinion. So that's what we're doing here. So firstly, I've got Jeff.
Thank you, Dave. I just wanted to check, at the moment this is specifically for staff. Is there any suggestion on whether elected members, if they want to, can take up this offer?
Yeah, there's certainly an opportunity to expand it to elected members. And again, that would be saying we would look to finalise in the second stage of investigating and finalising this initiative. So yes, is the answer to your question.
Okay, so it's all open.
Siggy, thanks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Jason. Look, now we heard at Treffens, we heard one of the staff talking in Tauranga about that scheme and how successful it was. And then just, maybe you don't know the numbers, maybe you do, but initially they only talked about 25 people would take it up, but there was a whole lot more took it up. Do you know the numbers from Tauranga?
The discussions I've had with staff over there, I think they had around 50 to 60 staff members take up the initial offer. I understand they've rolled out a second instalment of that.
Right,
So,
yeah. Oh, that's fantastic, because they only expected about 20 to 25 to take it up, and then they were totally amazed how many more, but I didn't know the exact number, so thank you so much for that.
Paula, thanks.
Thank you. I think it's fantastic. My only question relates to, I thought I saw it, a positive cost benefit. So within the organisation, if we get these electric bikes, their upfront cost, will they reduce the cost of, for example, fleet use and things like that? And will it be neutral in respect, do you think, or cost saving?
Potentially in that area. Primarily we were looking at this as an opportunity to encourage staff in terms of their own commute. into work. And to be honest, it's not only for their commuting, it's about getting more people on bikes, and we thought this was a great initiative to investigate, and we think it's got some real merits in terms of aligning to what we're wanting to achieve. So I wouldn't say...
So the cost benefit, the positive cost benefit refers to the wider community, that the benefit that the community derive is from lower congestion, lower consumption of petrol, etc.
Yeah, staff health, well-being and environmental benefits about getting less cars on the road.
Okay. And I was kind of hoping that if we encourage electric bikes, that they might, I was hoping that they'd have an in-house benefit too in the reduction of our own car fleet.
Questions?
In the reduction of our own car fleet, is this not possible?
Yeah, well, we certainly even have our own fleet of e-bikes at the moment, but we encourage staff when they're planning their meetings to use those. So there's no reason why that couldn't continue with their own e-bikes that they would have purchased for travelling on council business.
Okay, so what's the overall cost to council at this point?
In terms of the final cost to council would be in terms of the interest payments, which is just under $5,000, and it's based on a loan of $200,000 to service the 100 bikes. So that's, if you look at paragraph 21, provides that outline there.
Okay. So the argument is that will deliver more than that amount of money in value to the ratepayer because of reduced congestion, staff wellbeing, all of those other things.
Yes, that 5,000. Yes, yep, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Angela, and welcome to the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Apologies for being late. Just a question to staff. Jason, as the author of the reports, under your recommendation, I'm very happy to support this great initiative, but is there a reason, given the CE has delegated authority, that instead of approves, could not just change to supports the CE to promote and implement? I just feel it's a slippery slope if we're approving something he already has approval to do.
Angela, I asked that exact question of Becca beforehand, and we came to the conclusion that while the CE has the, and Becca can speak also, while the CE has the authority to do that, they also have the authority to ask ask for us to approve something that may be of greater interest than the normal things within their delegation. That was roughly, but
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why this has come. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'm happy with that. Thank
so
you.
it's an optional thing of theirs. Yep. Is that all? Sorry, Mark.
Oh yeah, just one quick question, Jason. Regards, we've mentioned Tauranga City Council. There's a lot of other organisations around doing this. Can you rattle off a couple of those for us, please?
So you've got Waipā District Council has rolled something out, as well as I understand NZTA, although I haven't spoken to them about their actual initiative. I understand Palmerston North City Council, and there are a couple of others. I just can't recall their names at the moment.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Gary, please.
Is there a potential that people who are currently walking will now start riding electric bikes, which actually don't give them any exercise?
Oh, look, potentially you may have people of other traffic modes wanting to use an electric bike, but I think there will still be health benefits from using an electric bike.
What are the health benefits of using an electric bike?
The e-bike, or the way it's structured, it supports the rider. So depending on your health level, you may choose to use more support depending on how far you're going uphill, distance. So I think the e-bike actually...
Sorry, what's the concept of support mean?
So it supports them riding the bike. So when they're pedalling...
Sitting down, you mean?
And pedalling,
yeah.
That their pedalling is supported whether they're going uphill, travelling longer distances.
No, I think Gary's question relates to, your answer should be about the pedal power versus the electric power. That's the support he's mean, not the seat that he's sitting on.
Yeah.
And the organisations you have quoted so far have all been organisations that spend other people's money, aren't they?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Leo, please.
Yeah, Jason, what sort of usage does the current e-bikes you've got here get?
Oh, that's a good question, Councillor. I don't have numbers off the top of my head. I would say they definitely get weekly usage, if not in some cases daily. I would suggest that during the summer months there's a higher usage than during winter, but they do get a fair amount of usage.
Yeah. I did read an article where I believe that the Deputy Mayor and Councillor McPherson were seen riding them up to the District Health Board, but whether that's true or not, I'm not too sure. What about parking of the e-bike? Where would you be parking these things?
It's a good question, and as part of the next phase, we've identified a couple of things that we need to resolve, and it is around bike storage. So it's one thing to promote it, and that's the detail that we didn't want to get right into unless we had, I suppose, support from this group here. But it is something we'll be looking at as part of rolling out this initiative.
And I suppose with that, would there be recharging facilities which they could use council electricity to charge them for?
No, look, the intention would be that they would do that at home and that we would be providing storage facilities here.
Okay.
Thanks, Leo. If there are no other questions, we'll go to the motion, which has been moved by Mark, seconded by myself, as written there, with noting that approves is something that's up for the Chief Executive to ask us as a committee to do. Oh, no. Just as written there. So, Mark, do you wish to speak to that?
Yeah, I'd like you back, Dave. As you probably gathered, quite enthusiastic about this one. So enthusiastic, I'm going to break into my previous role as an infomercial host. Are you tired of sitting in stationary traffic, getting later and later while smug-looking cyclists zip past you, making meetings you won't like? Is your gut getting larger and arteries clogging up with nasty cholesterol, all because of your drive to work? Are you tired of arguing over free parking initiatives to deal with commuter parking? Well, stress no more. Introducing the EBI, the Electric Bike Initiative. How much would you pay for 100 happy, healthier staff? Try $500 a year for gym memberships they might not even use. How does $50,000 sound? No way. But wait, there's more. What would you expect to pay for 100 less cars driving to the central city and clogging up our parking stock? Bus fares, taxis, Uber? Boy, those mount up. But wait, there's more. How about leading by example, being best in business? Didn't you say you're going to do that? What kind of money could you spend on that? Not thousands, not tens of thousands, try hundreds of thousands. But wait, there's more. Tired of hearing city leaders saying they never see any cyclists anyway? Tired of engineers putting cycle lanes in places they think they know best? What would you expect to pay for real cyclist data? Real time, real cyclists. Introducing Sensibel, the little device that 100 council staff will be offered that can track their journeys, and they can send real-time feedback about potential hazards. How much would a research company charge you for that? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. So how much would you pay for all of this? $500,000? Hundreds of thousands of dollars? How does a one-time maximum payment of $5,000 sound? And send no money now. Terms and conditions apply. That's right. For one easy payment of $5,000, you'll get happy staff, healthy staff, less congestion, fewer cars in long-term parks, leading Hamilton as a corporate citizen, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars for $5,000. Don't take our word for it. Listen to Martin Page of Tauranga City Council, who's been doing this for years. No steak knives, no magic bullets. It's the EBI for a limited time only. Get in now.
That's why I never buy anything from those TV programs. And Councillor Gary is going to give his rapt response to that.
I think we need to ask who we're here to serve. And is it really the best use of ratepayers' money? Council needs to be aware that our ratepayers are still very, very sore, very leery, and in many cases very angry after a council led by Mayor Julie Hardacre, which a few years ago slammed ratepayers with an 8% rates increase. That Hardacre-led council then promised to give ratepayers rates certainty by saying that their rates will increase by 3.8% per year from then on. Well, within 2 years later, Mayor Hardacre's councils had introduced a targeted rate for the Hamilton Gardens, and I think that may have been the first ever targeted rate applied in the city. Then that targeted rate also increased by 3.8%. Then a few years later, along comes Andrew King, who led a council, this council in fact, to increase rates by 9.7%, to be followed by annual increases of 3.8% for the rest of the decade. Now, I understand the cost of this electric bike initiative is only $5,000 in interest, but the capital cost of $200,000 will still count against our debt to revenue ratio. Our debt to revenue, our debt will rise by $200,000, and we've been told that our credit rating is at risk. And then we've got the perception risk. Council, by many of our residents, customers, ratepayers and citizens, is regarded as living in a bubble that's completely detached from reality. And I can understand that perception. What other entity would arbitrarily increase the cost to ratepayers of an open, freely contested tendered cleaning service so that we could play heroes with other people's money? Those other people, they're our ratepayers. What other entity would countenance an event centre that loses more than $8 to $10 million ratepayers a year? Continue a free CBD parking system that loses ratepayers $2 million a year? Continue an eyesight that loses ratepayers between $800,000 and $900,000 a year? Continue a CBD levy, development levies scheme that costs ratepayers over $7 million up to February this year, and that figure is still growing. A Hamilton to Auckland commuter train service that costs ratepayers and taxpayers $78 million capital costs and, from memory, about $6 million operating costs every year, all to reduce congestion by the huge figure of 0.67%. Now, I know it is not the intent or the truth, but this initiative creates the perception that council staff are being pampered and singled out for special treatment. I have no fear that this thing will ever be offered to our ratepayers. Council is losing ratepayers' money hand over fist, and we're about to consider a loan scheme for which the interest is subsidised by our ratepayers, so our staff and our staff only can buy electric bikes. As I started, who are we here to serve?
Thanks, Gary. I couldn't quite get the beat that was to go with that, but never mind. Paula.
Thank you, Chair Dave. And I'm also not going to rap or sing or make a poem about it. But what I will say is I thought hard about this, and I am going to support it because I think it sits very neatly with the whole approach to being a smart city and doing things differently. And it isn't that we're buying bikes for staff, we're enabling them to purchase their own bikes. That was a turning point for me, because I think unless it was a public fleet, I was going to have difficulties with that. So we're just allowing this market to have a bit of a surge, this electric bike market to have a bit of a surge, and I think that's good, given that you know, it will reduce the number of cars on the road at our key points, especially as our staff mostly come in over one bridge or another or through some congested intersections. And so I think that could be really helpful to put them onto our already invested in cycle paths, which we've always said we've developed to serve the commuter, the cycling commuter. So it is, like you say, it is a decision that the Chief Executive could have made, and out of transparency, he's brought that to us. I'm glad that he did bring it to us, because I think we are in this arena of transparency for ratepayers, really, really important at this time. To me, it's about priorities. I'd rather spend a very minimal sum assisting smart transport solutions than I would spending on the purchase of much more expensive private property for other purposes. So, you know, it's all a matter of where we sit with our priorities. And advancing safe alternative modes to the vehicle is where I'm at the moment. So I'm happy to see what the uptake is. And I just say, I was fortunate enough to be allowed to ride a bike from Electrify on the corner of Garden Place there for 3-4 weeks to see how it worked as a commuter option. And I loved it, just don't have the money to purchase one at the moment, spending my money on other things. You do have to cycle. It does give you that that exercise. You pretty much have to cycle, otherwise it won't take you up the hill. But I'd suggest that, Councillor Mallett, you go down to Electrify NZ, because they let people ride their bikes for free to try them, and give it a go before you make comments about the experience. I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yes, thank you, Dave. Look, I have no problem supporting this. This is something this council should be taking a lead on. I will often hear complaints from residents of this city who are fed up with being clogged up in traffic. I had the experience this morning. We've got one of our family cars in the garage overnight of having to crisscross the city for an hour and a half to drop various family members off, and it's not a pleasant experience. And we need to remember that Councillor Mallet asks, who are we here to serve? Well, we're here to serve our ratepayers, but we're also here to serve our residents who are getting fed up with the traffic. This is one little thing that we can do to lead the way. You've got to start somewhere. It's not big, but it's something that we can do. And I would hope that we can actually provide an example, and some of the corporates around town can actually follow this and do a similar thing. So in terms of the money, to put it in perspective, as Councillor Southgate has done, this is something that the CEO could have actually done under delegated authority. That's the money we're talking about here. So let's not get it out of perspective and start comparing it with stadiums and all that sort of stuff. So, yep, no problem supporting this. I think it's a good initiative. It's what we should be doing. And I think the people of this city will recognise the fact that we're trying to do something in a small way which resolves the congestion problems that Hamilton has. Thank you.
Thanks. And Councillor Steak Knife Salesman wants to have his right of reply.
No, very, very briefly. Thank you very much. Just in response to Councillor Mallet's well-made points, look, a lot of our staff are our ratepayers as well, and I think Councillor Taylor has well answered that question. We are actually serving the ratepayers by taking a lot of these cars off the road, we hope. And what other entity wouldn't invest in their people when they possibly can? There are countless examples all over the world of non-councils who are doing similar things, and some of them in Hamilton, I believe. We also said that one of our community outcomes was to be best in business, and as far as I can see, investing in our people this is a fine way of doing that. While I applaud his watchful eyes on spending, I believe this is money well spent. It's about the health of our staff, it's about congestion on our roads, it's about collecting valuable data to inform our cycleway decisions so we don't go putting cycleways in the wrong place in the future, and it's simply about setting example by being best in the business.
Thanks, councillors. We're voting on the board on the recommendation as in front of you. Thanks.
The motion is carried, 9-4, 2 against.
Thanks very much. Councillors, we're going to go back to item 10, the draft submission to the NZTA driver licensing amendment, page 37. And Mark is here. Or who's doing that? No, Mark's taking notes and you're doing that. Sorry. Sorry, Mark. Anything you need to say to introduce it, or is it?
No, I think basically NZTA work through a process of reviewing various rules throughout the year, and as part of the consultation process, then everyone gets a chance to submit on that. And we felt that this was a particular item that was of interest for council, and have prepared a draft based very heavily on work that has been done by the Treffins on this topic. So happy to take questions.
Okay, and I'm going to move the resolution, seconded by Jeff. Sorry, I got him first. Siggy's question, then Gary.
First, it's exciting.
Yeah,
thank you so much for that. Look, just on page 42, down the bottom, improve oversight of approved course providers. And it's nice to see that there's an investigation into the benefits of greater levels of driver license training. That's still a bit lame. Is there anything that can be done that makes it not just an investigation, but that they are going to look into that properly, do something about it properly?
So the proposed rule amendment didn't include anything.
Yeah.
So that's why we've added this particular clause to ask them to do some investigation.
Okay.
I think the timing is appropriate because the development of the 2020 road strategy is underway. They've been working on that for about the last 12 months. I understand that we're going to see some draft documents out soon. and that really will provide the real opportunity to get into that. But this seemed like a good opportunity to at least put the point forward as
Okay.
well.
Okay, thank you so much. That's great.
I mean, if we wanted, we could ask for that to be beefed up, but the point made is getting it in there, I think is what the...
And is that the chance, and
Yeah.
then when the draft comes out, that 2020, that we have a chance to really say, hey, we want that? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Thanks. Gary, please.
Thank you. I'm just not, a big part of it's all about the eyesight thing.
Correct.
Just explain what currently is your eyesight check?
So basically, every
Bridmore?
every 10 years on our 5th birthday, you have to renew your
On a
driver's
what?
license.
After your 50th birthday?
On our 5th birthday, so 25th, 35th,
Oh,
45th
okay.
birthday, you have to renew your driver's license. And as part of that process, you have to have an eyesight check. Now, you can either use the machine that they have at the AA office, or it might be that you've gone to the testing station or whatever, and do that, or you visit your local optometrist and get a certificate for that.
Come up with a certificate, yeah.
So what it involves is a physical activity. What they're hoping to do is to make the whole driver licence renewal a more electronic type process. So they're talking about removing the eyesight tests at those regular ones so that it can be done all electronically.
The eyesight test would be done electronically too?
No, they're not going to have the eyesight test
So
at those times.
And what are we doing? We're recommending that that's wrong. We're saying...
We have concerns
too weak.
because we know that during the eyesight testing process that people are getting picked up who weren't aware or were perhaps living in denial of the fact that they actually needed to have glasses for driving. And while it's hard to quantify the fact, as to whether that's actually resulted in crashes, we did have a concern that, we have a lot of crashes that result from the look but did not see. Was it because you weren't looking properly? Was it because you couldn't see? And as I said, there have been a large number of people who, as a result of that testing, have actually ended up having to get glasses and to wear those when driving.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, I'm going to move the recommendation as written there, which, it's been moved and seconded, but I'm going to put that recommendation. Those, show of hands, those in favour, against, that's carried. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
We're on to item 11, Solid Waste Bylaw Review, page 44. Oh, you are? I didn't see you, Trent. Sorry. I'm just going to ask you to give any intro you want, and then Siggy, I'm just going to see if you want to say any few words about that, but after I'll start with Trent, then go to you.
Yep.
Thanks.
Kia ora koutou. First, I just want to introduce Sandra Murray from Zenzik Consultancy, who's been helping us with the review and development of the bylaw, so she's along here to support with any questions you may have as well. Essentially, we are seeking the approval from the G&I Committee for the consultation of the Solid Waste Bylaw and the attached statement of proposal in compliance with the Local Government Act. The existing Solid Waste Bylaws 2012 has been reviewed to include new and amended controls to support the new service that will be implemented 1 July 2020 for the curbside. The review is also an opportunity to align the Solid Waste Bylaw with the Waste Management and Minimisation Plan that was adopted by Council in 2018. I'll take the report as read and any questions.
Thanks. Siggy, do you want to speak to that?
Great job, thank you. And it is just to go out to consultation at the moment. But we really do need some more enforcement. If we don't have that, we just, like we've seen, there's some, we can't stand on anything if we don't have that bylaw. Too many things can go, even with waste operators and so on. We might have challenges like we've just had with our one that we've got at the moment. So I think it's a really important one. And of course, we might fail to meet the obligations under the legislation anyway if we don't do this. So basically, we have to do it. That's all I want to say.
Thanks. Gary, questions, thanks.
Thank you. On page 47, paragraph 45, it refers to controls in the amendments are in alignment with, and there are some Maori words there. I don't know, can you define what the Maori words are, please? It's tau, tumu, tau, pari, and excuse my pronunciation, but...
It's the Waikato Tainui Environmental Plan. So it's...
Okay, so so there's 3 words there. What are they?
Sorry, I do not know.
Beg your pardon?
Manga Norm, are you able to... So that's the name of... Sorry, Councillor, Gary. So that's the name of the environmental plan, Tai Tumu, Tai Pari, Tai Ao. It refers to coast, to seas, to the environment inclusively. So it's a name that is environmentally inclusive from coast to sea, to the land.
So those 3 words make up the name of the Tainui Environmental Plan?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
all right. In future, can we have... Because that was confusing to me. I don't know if it was confusing to anyone else. But I didn't know if those were standards or what they were. Okay, thank you. On page 61, at the very top of the page, there's something called Provision for Waste Plans, Multi-Unit Development, MUD, Waste Plans. Is there any desire or effort made to make sure that terminology equates with definitions in our district plan regarding DC levies, all that sort of stuff? Are we using the same words within our district plan as we're using it as our waste management plan? Because does the district plan, for example, have an entity called a multi-unit development?
Yep, sure.
Kia ora. We had quite a lot of discussions internally about this terminology. The district plan actually refers differently to multi-unit developments. It separates out residential and commercial. But for the purpose of the waste bylaw, there was not a great deal of difference between the way we manage residential and commercial. And in the interest in avoiding a 12-word acronym, we actually came down to a new definition. It is a definition that is consistent with the bylaw, even though the terminology is slightly different. We went to great pains to make sure.
Sorry, hang on, you said consistent with the bylaw. This is the bylaw. Is it consistent with our district plan? Because we're just trying to avoid confusion when people are...
They refer to different things. They're actually referring to 2 different words. So the district plan does have, when you're talking about developments that are 3 or more buildings,
yep.
Okay, the district plan separates those out into commercial and residential and refers to them separately.
Yep.
Whereas the bylaw is referring to multi-unit developments regardless of whether they're residential or commercial or mixed use.
So is there some value in, because this is the document that is flexible at the moment because we're in the process of approving it, can we put it just in brackets beside that, just refer to what it refers to in the district plan? So that we understand, because you've got people out there who don't have the wisdom of you sitting next, asking, out there trying to make decisions.
We did put a definition in the bylaw about what a multi-unit development was and what it referred to, so that, we had quite a comprehensive definitions section in the bylaw.
Isn't this the bylaw here?
Yep.
So there is a definition of that in here somewhere, is it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I haven't seen that. Okay, where is the definition?
Right at the very front of the bylaw.
And it's point 3 definitions, page 50, Gary.
Okay. Does that make reference back to the district plan?
No, because there isn't a term in the district plan that covers the same thing.
Okay.
The actual terms on page 52, the definition, sorry, of multi-unit development, right in the middle.
Okay, do you see that as creating problems?
We had a lot of discussions internally across multiple departments on this particular issue, and that was the terminology which we came to, which we felt was the clearest, that was enabled people to understand what it was and was most appropriately in use for waste management.
Okay. All right, well, okay, this is going out to consultation, so hopefully, okay. And the other one was just another one, the definition of the word events, and the definition, there is it, you're right, I had seen the definitions in here. Does that also pick up, like, footy clubs and rugby clubs and cricket clubs and things like that that have regular games and there's a whole lot of people turn up? Do they have to have a waste management plan?
Yeah. I guess the intent is more just, it's not going down to that level. I guess it's a size of gathering, but it's, yeah, permitted activity. So to host an event requires a permit from council, and this is just, I guess, another aspect of that permit.
Because I understand what the purpose of this is, but it strikes me that it could end up capturing those sorts of entities.
It's not the intent, it's larger scale events. Okay,
that's not the intent, but a different person may be administrating this somewhere down the track, and
I guess that gets picked up within development of our processes for those permits, so there's understanding, so it's not just held by one person, we can roll it through staff.
Yeah. Okay, well, I am still concerned on that, so we'll see what the public say. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, councillors. I'll put I'll get Siggy to move and Ryan to second the recommendation number 2 on page 44. So I'll put that to a show of hands. Those in favour, against, that's carried. Thanks very much, guys. Councillors, we're on to the DC's remissions quarterly report for information from Stafford, page 78. So this is not something we have any decision-making power over. It's simply what we've requested in the past, a quarterly report. Stafford, briefly.
Good morning, councillors. I'd like to take the report as read, noting that I'll be back here on Thursday for the hearings on the proposed DC policy.
Okay. Questions, Ryan? Thanks.
Thanks, Chair. Just a note on transport remissions that's come through a few times in the last few quarters. I guess we have a policy and then it's the duty of the developer to do a more detailed analysis. Have we got the transport remissions about right, or is it typical for the detailed analysis to show that a remission is warranted?
So in this remissions reporting report, they're only CBD remissions, so there's no detailed transport analysis that's required. It's based on the policy that we're remitting, depending on what policy you fall under, percentage or all of the development contributions for the CBD.
Right. So it's just that's just how it falls out. Okay. There was some transport remissions in the previous quarter, so I guess that was what prompted me. But I'll see how it plays out going forward. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay, councillors, I'll move that we receive. Oh, sorry, Gary, you just got in there.
Okay. Yep. Thanks, Stafford. You've said that these happen to be only CBD remissions, but these are also all of the remissions we've had in this quarter. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Yep. Okay. So does that? Were there applications in this quarter for remissions?
There are ongoing applications. Some were approved just after the reporting quarter finished. So those will come back to you in the next report.
Okay, so it's just cut-off thing. Okay, so and this is a very wobbly conclusion to draw. The fact that it's quite low, well, particularly that there are only CBD remissions, does that suggest that perhaps there is a little slowdown in development, or is that just a far too long a bow to draw?
I would be very hesitant to make any conclusions off such a small sample size, Gary.
It's not an unreasonable conclusion one way or another, though. It is what it is. And if there is a slowdown to be reflected in the numbers, probably a better statement to make.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, are you noticing, and I know this is not what the actual specific topic of this item is, are you noticing a slowdown in development? Applications, I guess, is what you're dealing with.
It's an interesting space to move into, and I'd like to say that there's the most building consents we've had in recent history, I think, since back to the 1970s, where they built more. So last year we had the most building consents for new dwellings. There is conflicting information with some of the resource consenting and industrial and commercial activities, but like you say, those areas are far lumpier. All it takes is a couple of very large developments and all of a sudden, you know, it looks like your numbers are really high again. Yeah. So in terms of the residential side, that looks like it's still remaining strong. I would like to say we need to bring back better data to you on the non-residential side.
So, Councillor Mellett, one of the things that Jen Gregg and Stafford are working on is building a body of knowledge, or including independent assessment of the impact of DC charges on the sensitivity of market movements in terms of development. That's not for this DC policy review. This will be just part of ongoing work the team will do to enable us to have that conversation with you a bit more robustly rather than just anecdotal feedback.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillors, I'll move the recommendation that we receive the report, seconded by James. Yeah. Those in favour, hands up. Thanks. Against, carried. Okay, councillors, thanks. Stafford. Go on to the Peacock program update. There's two aspects to us. There's a general update, Karen, general update here, plus we have a decision to make on an option being proposed to us, a design option on one particular part of it. So while we can ask questions about the whole lot when we come to discussion, we'll just be discussing the option that's for recommendation to council. Karen, do you want to introduce it briefly? Thanks.
Yes, well, I was going to do my introduction by taking the report as read.
Good. Yep, that's what we like. Okay, we're straight on to questions. There aren't any, so we can go to the resolution. It's been moved by Councillor King, and that, sorry, Councillor King, that was last term, Mayor King, sorry, behind the times there. And that includes option A, but just want to draw your attention, I'm just trying to get the page that option A is on, that you're, it's pages, just make sure you're aware of 96 and 97, with option A being the first of the four sketches there. And there's another, I'm just wondering if that other part of what you could do with option A, there's no actual drawing of that, is there? I thought there was going to be. Yeah. Because option, okay, I'm going to say this in, and you can certainly ask questions. Option A, as has been explained to the briefing that we had, can include treatment basically that doesn't change the structure. So option A shows you the structure that you'll be voting for, but you can do different sides on it that make it look different, etc. like that. Cosmetic attached to the structure, but the structure is what you're voting on at this point because of the reasons that the staff have outlined. So if there's no questions, that's good. We'll go back to the page there, which Andrew has moved and I'll second. If there's no discussion, so we have had the briefing, happy to put that now. Those in favour raise their hands. Those against, that's carried too. That was quick.
That was easy. Thank you.
Thanks. And it was it's a good clear. No controversy here. Eh? Yep. We're on to the GM's report, councillors, starting on page 107. Sorry, I'm just finding that myself. So we're going to start with Jen's reports. So again, like before, we're going to go through these, and if I'll just mention them. If there are no questions, we'll move on. So we're not going to debate them. There's nothing in there that we have to make decisions on, or sorry, there is. Which is the one we have to make a decision on?
The parking management plan.
Parking management plan. Sorry. Other than that, that's the only one we'll pause on. Okay. So Metro Spatial Plan.
So, councillors, this is just an update in terms of progress on the Metro Spatial Plan. So, as you'll recall, it is the first cab off the rank in terms of projects from the Hamilton to Auckland corridor. And work is happening really quickly on this. It's moving at pace, which is fantastic. The government are right there. It is a fully collaborative process with iwi and a number of Crown agencies and also our neighbouring councils. So we're all in this together, and what the Metro Spatial Plan does is it brings together a whole load of seemingly disparate conversations that have been happening and puts them all under the same umbrella, and then looks at some specific geographic areas as well in some detail. So what this report was really about was to give you an update in terms of how you would hear about it. There will be regular reporting updates because this is moving quickly. You'll see quite a lot of it come through in updates, but we are planning to have a full briefing, quite a comprehensive briefing in terms of this project in June or July. The team are just finalising where they need to get to before they put that on the table for you, and we will be scheduling that in.
Okay, my apologies I need to make to Jen. She wasn't here when we had the last meeting, adopted the principle that we don't need to speak to the reports unless there are questions. And I'm not objecting to you speaking to it. I can see some of the other GMs winding up to give great long speeches, and we do not want that.
Sorry, Chris. Sorry.
No, I should have explained it because I just remembered you were away the last one. It was a great speech, though.
Thanks.
And thank you for shutting Chris up.
Shut up, Chris. The strategic regional collaboration, there's the list of the items there. Gary, you're wanting to question on that?
Just on the parking management plan.
So no, we're not there yet, Gary. I'll save it, please. I'm going through these paragraph by paragraph as they're listed on the run sheet. The next one is the progress update on city growth policy and bylaw reviews. Any question? And you've got the tables there of what's coming up. Any questions on that? No. Progress on policy and bylaw reviews for wastewater? No. Access Hamilton Task Force update. So there we'll go to the parking management plan, and Robin, since we have to make a decision there, I'll ask you to briefly introduce that, or no, Jason is, sorry. Kick Chris out and put Jason in, and then we'll go to your question, Gary. Jason, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the parking management plan was intended that it would come to this G&I committee for review and adoption of the principles and the guiding objectives that will set out the framework that will then be used to develop the individual precinct plans. We haven't been able to make that time frame, so what we're asking for here is an extension that report will then come back to the next G&I meeting on the 18th of June. And the reason this piece of work is quite critical is that it will help set, like I say, that framework that will then allow staff to start working with key stakeholders in developing the precinct plans. So we have a number of those already identified. The Central City, CBD, Fringe, Frankton, Hospital, Hamilton East, the hospital, Te Rapa, as well as sports fields and bus zone areas. So happy to take any questions.
Yeah, so we've got Gary there. Just on the parking management plan, Gary?
Yep. Okay, so this parking management, is the CBD 2-hour free parking trial a subset of the parking management plan?
The parking management, yes. So the parking management plan will set the framework. So the precinct plan itself that we develop for the Central City will identify...
Which is not the same as the 2-hour free parking?
That's an initiative that we've rolled out in terms of for parking. We've always said that 2 hours free parking is not necessarily a long-term initiative for the Central City. So what we're wanting to do is, at what point do we then start looking at other alternatives or other initiatives? And so what the framework will do is set out parameters, and that will look at the occupancy levels getting to a certain point that it's unsustainable to keep them at that level. So that's above that 85%. If the turnover was slowing down, do we still continue with the free 2 hours parking? We're not saying get rid of it, but then there would it would trigger a discussion about what's the next lot of initiatives that we should be looking at. So the two levers we have are timeframes and price.
So the 2-hour CBD thing is still a trial, is it? Just keeps on getting extended and extended.
Yeah, we've already voted for that at the last meeting.
Yeah, thank you. Yep.
And yes, it has for another 12 months, but that was to allow staff to then work on developing the parking management plan. So we're well advanced in that, and we're looking to bring something back in June. And once that's been adopted, then we'll be in a position to start working, in this case for the Central City, with the stakeholders here to develop the precinct parking action plan. And that's where I would expect to see what are the initiatives going forward that we would be looking to implement once conditions are satisfied in the future about what we need to be doing.
So what's the status of the 2-hour free trial at the moment?
It will, it's to run
when is the end of the trial?
I think at the moment it's been signed off till the end of June 2020. Okay?
Yep.
But while that's happening, there's this piece of work around the parking management plan, and we expect to get the precinct plan done as well prior to that. So then there would be another report from staff coming to GNI about, I suppose, the way forward. And I would see that to be the adoption of the parking management plan, and I would also expect that to be the precinct action plans as well.
And within that hierarchy of plans, there may or may not be a continuation of 2 hours free parking in CBD, as we currently know.
Yeah, look, it's a possibility. I'm not trying to preempt what the next lot of initiatives will be, but all initiatives I think would be investigated and looked at as part of that exercise.
So a trial assumes that you're trialling it to see if it works or not. When does that end? When do we make that decision?
I think once you've got the information in front of you around the precinct plan, so that as part of that, there will be the adoption of the parking management plan, the precinct plans at that point.
Okay. Sorry, Gary, we're not going to debate that because that was held last meeting. That we decided when the trial would end and when the report back on that needed to be happen. Okay, councillors, so I'm going to move on. That's in the acceptance or the approval of that decision comes up as part of the overall decision. We're on to the Regional Transport Committee meeting update. There is something to verbally add, and I sent all of you an email yesterday, and Robin is going to help me with this because she was also at the meeting. There was a proposal that came to the Regional Transport Committee and Mark asked a question of Marcus Lynham relating to this as well. The proposal was that, and it was an indicative one, it wasn't a formal one, but a number of the councils represented there, which is all the other small country ones, were acting as though it was ready to, they'd love it to start yesterday, simply that final decisions on speed limits in all jurisdictions in the region be handled by one regional body, whether it be the Regional Transport Committee or a version of LAS, which all parties had bought into, LAS being Local Authority Shared Service, that we already put some other things within. I expressed my opposition, but also took that back to you as councillors with a bit of information. I felt that the Hamilton City Council should be the final arbiter of speed limits. We've always been proactive in that area and responded to community concerns quite actively in terms of lowering speeds. I felt that the regional control of that would limit our ability to make quick decisions and potentially to make decisions to slow speeds lower than the norm in other jurisdictions. I can get the point of why some of these small rural councils without much resource would like someone else to make the decision for them and think that that's perfectly fine if they wish to do that. And I think Marcus alluded to that too in his answer to Mark, that because we're already ahead of the game, we've set up a process that from now on is going to fast track, relatively speaking, the decision-making process. We don't have to do a whole new bylaw change for every speed limit change in Hamilton City. The others all still have to do that, and they're seeking a way of fast-tracking it and coordinating it. And the rest. Robin, do you want to add to that briefly?
I think you've got the core components there. I guess there are two key issues. There's one around the workforce involved with managing the speed limit process and the consultation and the reports to councils and that sort of thing, and you know, the public engagement, and then as Councillor Dave outlined, the decision making, which they're calling in this case the institutional arrangements. So they've resolved to come out and consult with councils and have that conversation before they decide the next steps. And at this stage we're organising for that to come to the Access Hamilton Task Force at the end of the month, so 27th of May I think it is.
Yeah. So we're not trying to make a decision here, and if we have a specific proposal to make, that'll come back from the Access Hamilton discussions to this committee. But sometime in the next 2 months we will be called on to give an official view.
Correct.
Yep, on that. So are there any questions? Sorry, Gary, I've got you.
Yeah, Dave, just triggering off something you said, I've heard around here that it would be advantageous for all of the authorities to have similar speed limits on similar type roads, but doesn't that sort of contradict what you were just talking about then with Hamilton doing things on its own? And I might have misunderstood what you were saying.
You picked up a good point, and that is the potential contradiction. We, for instance, could have all of our schools at 30k speed limits, and there be a different speed limit elsewhere. But it's sort of whether you're going to lead or just be part of a group doing it. And we've found on those sorts of issues, it's been slow and cumbersome to do it regionally. In actual fact, for instance, pretty much every school in every town in the Waikato now, within the towns at least, has a 40k speed limit. But when we brought in the 40ks, we were some years ahead of some of them. So it's a question whether you want to lead the pack, I guess. Yeah, this is a fair point you've raised, or want to
versus
be
consistency.
Part of the one decision made, in most cases later on down the track, further down the track. It's taken a while. So there is that trade-off. We, though specifically on some streets around the edge of the city, K Road is a good example, we're working directly with the council that sort of owns half of it, and we own half of it, Waikato District, so we get one aligned speed limit on those ones where we literally join each other. There's a couple others like that too. Do you want to say something?
So the other thing I'd just add is that as part of this work they're developing regional principles and policies, and the aim of that is to try and provide that umbrella for consistency. So between that document and the NZTA's speed management guide, there's a lot more really good information so that those decisions are becoming more consistent. So I think the consistency matter is being dealt with. It really comes down to the workload involved, which is the task force type activities, and then having a group of people that are prepared to make a decision for those changes.
So what is the workload involved in having consistent, like obviously you've got a 50 going to a 60, or a 50 going to a 70, or a 70 coming to a 50. What's the work? What's required? First of all, you need to ring up their guys and say, look, I think we should confirm the two, equalise the two, whatever it is. But then you've got to talk to your community and all that sort of process.
Yes, so that's the process that we need to go through, is that engagement with community, engagement with key stakeholders, which includes the likes of the AA, your adjacent road controlling authorities, which is the local council or NZTA, and the police. And then groups such as the Road Transport Association representing the heavy vehicles. So there are requirements that we need to work through. I think the biggest issue around consistency is just the ability to roll it out for some councils. So for the likes of, say, Waitomo and Otrahonga, the big thing that's going to actually affect their district is actually when NZTA go in and look at lowering speed limits on the state highway network, and that will create this ripple effect where you have to think about the fact that if, say, the state highway drops to 80, what do those side roads look like? Because those side roads are going to be of a lower standard as far as safety goes. Is it appropriate that they carry on at 100, or should they also be dropping to 80? So it's trying to just provide that, I guess, consistency not only with the numbers, but what's a logical rollout of those changes as well. And that's where there's some opportunities regionally. Gary, I'm also going to suggest that to help with the consistency, that we work directly with all the other councils through whatever regional structure set up. It's just that the final thing is not their decision, it's a recommendation back to our council. That's what I think is the way through that, so that we do have the ability at the end of the day to make that decision ourselves, or make it faster or something like that.
Okay, I mean, my concern is just that we need to address it, because we frequently comes up in discussion, this, and it seems like we're taking a step back from being consistent by being less communicative or something.
And part of the problem is for the school 30k speed limit issue is a good example. Rather than allowing anyone that wants to do it, they said we'll have some pilots, and who wants to be part of the NZTA, or the Ministry of Transport, sorry, who wants to be part of the pilot. So we put up our hand to be that, but we can't actually do it yet, and they weren't going to take the whole country as a pilot. So, you know, it's sort of, the way they organise it doesn't really allow much consistency either at the moment. We've supported the region, for instance, wanting consistent country road speed limit, default speed limit of 80k per hour. We've supported that, and not that we've already done that in our area. But we've supported all the others doing it too. So it's sort of it is a bit of has been a chicken and egg situation. At the end of the day, maybe in 10 years' time, it won't be an issue, because we'll have them all.
It's a pretty long day.
Well, I don't know.
10 years.
Martin will still be on council.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll just keep moving through these. There wasn't anything else from the Regional Transport Committee of particular note. Waste Task Force update, nothing, no. Stick up your hand or yell out something. Gordonton Road Corridor, there's a date, is there not, for the opening of that? The lights?
I think there is a date sometimes later in May. I think that's been communicated.
Okay.
Double check that.
Yep. Passenger rail update. Oh, sorry, Mark.
What happened?
What's this?
How did you let that happen without the Tron Express written on the side of it?
Because I controlled that.
Ah, right, gotcha.
Yeah, he's too gutless to. Passenger rail update. Yep. Okay, so councillors, will go back to the resolution, which includes the guiding principles of the parking management plan as part B, and also notes that the policy on the sale and disposal of council land will come back to the August meeting of this committee. It's been delayed, in other words, but we have to formally approve that. So I'm going to move that recommendation, seconded by Jeff. Is there any discussion on it? Andrew? Sorry, I got Andrew first.
Sorry, my apologies, sorry.
Can I just remind staff who were writing on that report on the disposal of land about the land trust and the discussions we've had on that, just to ensure that that is picked up?
That's a different issue, is it not? The Community Lands Trust, is that what you're talking about? That's not disposal. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Ensuring that there's an opportunity for that
included.
to pick up land from the disposal, just in the report.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Gary, sorry.
Clarity. So, again, I'm just wondering what B talks about the parking management plan.
Yep.
So we're just moving that decision out. Are we just delaying a decision there, are we?
Yes, that was the only thing we had to make a decision on related to parking management plan. We allow staff to defer it for a month for a meeting cycle. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, Mark.
Just for information that Gordonton Road thing's the 24th of May.
24th of May. Thanks. Should be in your diaries. If not, check it out. Okay, councillors, I'll put that to show of hands. Those in favour, against, that's carried. Thanks. Councillors, we're on to the public excluded agenda. So we're going to exclude the masses of public that are here. Sorry, Roger. And I'll move the appropriate resolution. Yada, yada. I mean, no, it says something else, doesn't it? Seconded by Jeff. Those in favour, against, carried. We'll just get ourselves organised and go on to the other agenda.